Good evening. It is 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 6th, 2023, and this regular meeting of the Sandpoint City Council is now called to order at Council Chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. For the record, I'm Mayor Shelby Ronstadt presiding. Also present are Councilors Deb Rule, Andy Grote, Jason Welker, and Justin Dick. Councilor Joel Espiro is not with us today.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
I would note as well that Council President McAllister is with us.
sorry. We also have Council President Kate McAllister with us. Thank you. Under the city's adopted code of ethics and civility, as the presiding officer, I'm to identify law enforcement personnel in the room who will be serving as Sergeant of Arms this evening. And for tonight, we have Police Chief Corey Kuhn. Thank you, Police Chief, for being here with us. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a proclamation to read this evening for National Dog Service Month. Oh, there she is. Okay. Whereas we believe in the joyful, transformative power of the human canine bond and inclusivity of all citizens, and whereas in the United States, 64 million adults and children have a disability and only 16,000 service dogs from accredited training programs exist nationwide, and the need is growing. And whereas Canine Companions is a nonprofit organization that enhances the lives of people with disabilities by providing expertly trained dogs and ongoing support to ensure quality partnerships. And whereas Canine Companions and their service dogs empower people with disabilities to lead life with greater independence by providing best-in-class training, ongoing follow-up services, and a deeply committed community of support. And whereas National Dog Service Month aims to educate our community about the benefits of service dogs and the laws protecting them. And whereas the city of Sandpoint continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens and their service dogs are embraced. And whereas, and now, therefore, in recognition of service dogs and the adults and children with disabilities in our community, I, Mayor Shelby Ronstadt, do hereby proclaim September to be National Service Dog Month. I encourage all citizens to celebrate task-trained service dogs and be respectful of the rights afforded to the adults, children, and veterans who lead more independent lives because of their assistance. Proclaimed this 6th day of September, 2023 in the city of Sandpoint, Bonner County, Idaho. Can I present this to you?
Now we can say.
Best part of the job.
Mr. Mayor, I think they would like to make some comments.
Oh, please.
The dog has some words for you.
The dog has some words. Okay.
Well, again, I want to thank the city of Sandpoint and mayor for making this proclamation available in our town of Sandpoint. We have a local chapter here, the Inland Northwest chapter. I don't want to put my back to anyone here. And we are constantly looking for volunteer families to raise puppies. Without volunteer puppy raising, we have no service dogs. And there are continually about 600 people on our waiting list to receive dogs from Canine Companions. They're valued at about $50,000 by the time their training is complete. And that's the reason the list is so long, free of charge to Canine Companions. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Are there any announcements from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So with Councilperson Espiro not here, I want to tell him and his family and his community, thank you very, very much for a very successful event. Trinity, Jason was there. Many of us were there. It was, I don't know the numbers and the details, There were so many smiling faces in those kids and those parents. It was a professionally ran event for children. As somebody that likes to entertain the idea that I'm athletic, watching these kids do these things, it was fantastic. And to have it at City Beach, to have our resources within our community in that tight, small bit of a footprint, and it be that successful really shows how it's fun. There's not, I honestly am out of words with expressing how cool an event that was. I participated in a bunch of stuff with grownups, and it's always eye of the tiger. It's always real competitive, and this brought my heart back into it. So it was great. And thank you for the volunteers, and thank you to Joel. And I encourage him to continue to do this for next year.
And I believe Joel's wife Moira was really involved with the planning of that as well. So
Yep, absolutely.
kudos to her.
Yep.
That's great. And congratulations to Connexu Land Trust and to our Bonner County community for the Sled Hill raise. So we've successfully, Connexu Land Trust has successfully raised the funding necessary to secure the property, the Sled Hill at Pine Street Woods. And very exciting. And they've already also secured one of the most robust volunteer efforts I've ever heard about to do the renovations and improvements that are envisioned there on the property, and really exciting news for our community. Got a little feedback here. If we can adjust that, that'd be great. Any other announcements from council? Any announcements from staff?
Just a quick announcement about upcoming special events. This weekend, we have the Ponderay Cup. It's a permitted city event. It's one of our bigger events in the community. So we will have teams from 3-4 states down at War Memorial Field, as well as using all of the fields along the sports complex. So thank you to Strikers for working with us and partnering on and the school district for allowing parking over in the high school parking lot and people shuttling back and forth. So to limit the impacts on the neighbors, it's always a balancing act with an event this big in the community, but it's important for our businesses too. So thank you.
That's great. All right, next on the agenda is the public forum portion of the meeting, which allows the public to address city council regarding items listed on the consent calendar or on any topic not listed on the agenda. If anyone here in chambers wishes to speak now during the public forum or during any other portion of the meeting, you must complete a sign-up form, which is located on the table by the front door. Please fill it out and hand it to anyone at the back table there, the staff table, and they can get it where it needs to go. For those who wish to speak on, who are on Zoom this evening, you will need to raise your hand at this time. To accommodate those who wish to speak on general items during the public forum, as well as those who wish to speak on specific business items on our agenda, a total of 20 minutes will be dedicated to the public forum at the beginning of the meeting. If you'd like to speak and did not have an opportunity to do so, we will provide that opportunity by reopening the public forum at the end of our regular agenda. I'll now recite the rules and procedure for public comment during the meetings. Council may not hear or take testimony during public forum on any planning and zoning matter that is before the city or is known to be a likely application. Such testimony is allowed only during a properly noticed public hearing. Matters that have been previously heard and decided by the council may be determined to be inappropriate for public forum. Those in attendance shall not engage in disorderly or boisterous conduct, use threatening or abusive language, hold up or display any type of sign, speak out of turn or clap or engage in any other similar act which disturbs the meeting. Comments shall not be personally derogatory, nor shall they be personally directed at any individual, organization, or business. Issues regarding the performance of city employees constitute matters that must be discussed only in executive session and are not appropriate during the public portion of the meeting. Public comment opportunities during meetings are for comments only. Do not direct any questions to myself, council, or staff, and please do not approach the dais. Also, please do not approach the clerk or staff at the front table up here, as this disrupts the meeting and it makes it difficult for them to do their work. You may inquire of staff at the back table if you have any questions or you need assistance of any kind. Unless otherwise provided, each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes. When it is your turn to speak, please introduce yourself and state whether or not you reside in the city limits. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone that has signed up to speak during the public forum this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Janine Shepherd.
Hi, Janine Shepherd, Bonner County. Just here to open you guys in prayer and pray a blessing over our meeting tonight. If you'd like to join me in praying, I would love that. Dear Lord, we come to you in humility and gratitude to thank you for the blessings of the day. We see your hand at work in our lives and we are thankful. We ask in this moment that your Holy Spirit would rest on this meeting, bringing your peace, discernment, and wisdom to the mayor and counselors. Help them to hear from you and know the best results for each of the items. Help each one to know what is best for our city and seek to follow your will and plan. We ask for your blessing upon all teachers, students, and administrators as they head back to school. Bless the homeschool moms and dads and students as well. Help the students hear of you, Lord, and your goodness and faithfulness. Keep the students safe in the school this year. We command the spirit of suicide and addiction to leave our county. Help the students find joy and peace in things of you. Help each of us love our neighbors as we love you, Lord. Bring unity to our city, which only happens with you. In our own efforts, we have nothing. We want our city to reflect you, Lord, that Sandpoint would be on earth as it is in heaven. Psalm 116, 1 and 2 says, I love the Lord, for he heard my voice. He heard my cry for mercy. Because he turned his ear to me, I will call on him as long as I live. Let it be so. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, there is no one else who's signed up to speak during public forum in the room. And I don't believe we have anybody online who would like to speak at this time.
Okay, hearing that, we will now proceed with, well, that concludes the public forum portion of the meeting. And we'll now proceed with the consent calendar. For the record, the total amount of bills is $1,215,106.96, reflecting $351,567.12 for regular payables and $863,539.84 for payroll. Does council have any questions, or are there any items council wishes to remove from the consent calendar? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion that the consent calendar be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor McAllister,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Rule. Yes. Counselor Grow.
Yes.
That the consent calendar is approved with no old business on the agenda this evening. We'll move on to new business. First item under new business this evening, council will consider the recommendations of the Sandpoint Arts, Culture and Historic Preservation Commission for the arts pieces that will sit atop the silver boxes downtown. I'll now yield the floor to Arts and Historic Preservation Officer Heather Upton. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I am so excited tonight to present the 3 recommendations from the Art and Historic Preservation Commission. So just a little background. This is our public art on loan program. So these sculptures are on loan for a year. These are the 3 locations. The artists that have been chosen will receive $1,000 stipend. The art is for sale, and if it does sell in that year period, then the city would receive 10% of the sale. So it's a wonderful program that achieves many goals and actions in our Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Master Plan. So we have a fantastic set of criteria that the artists had to keep in mind when they were applying. We did a national call for artists for this program, and we received 16 submittals. Out of the 16, 6 qualified and adhere to the set of criteria. So the commission went through a painstaking process of trying to pick the perfect ones, and they felt very confident on the three that they chose. So the first one that I'd like to introduce to you is artist Anna Lee Harris. Her sculpture is at River's Edge. And the location that the commission is recommending is at Oak and North 5th Avenue. You're going to notice that the location that you're seeing in my presentation is different from what's in your council packet. We just had to do a little adjustment in terms of a scale moment. The artwork is for sale. It's $8,000. This artist is local from Bonners Ferry. She carved it, she painted it. It's really exciting. And then move on to the next one. Dave Gonzo. So his sculpture is the spirit tree. And he had a statement with his tree that he submitted, and he believes that it represents the balance of masculine and femininity with the copper and the steel melding together. And the steel is for strength and fortitude of the roots, trunk, and branches. And then the copper foliage embodies flexibility, protection, and healing. And so he's a wonderful metal sculptor from Sandpoint, Idaho. That's also for sale for $8,000. And then we picked, the commission picked a fantastic artist, Ursula Roma, who actually is from Cincinnati, Ohio. And this sculpture is to be featured on North 4th Avenue in Church. So this was by the post office, and I apologize, just to back up one moment. This piece is to be featured at Oak and North 4th Avenue. So this one's right by the farmer's market. So back to Ursula. It's a great kind of musical, fun motion. Historically, the commission has always chosen more of an artful, whimsical piece in that location. And so they felt like that was a really great spot. And I had a wonderful conversation with Ursula, and she's never been to Sandpoint, and she hasn't gotten out of town since COVID. So she might do a road trip up here and discover our amazing city that we have. So I'm just here to present them to you and consider them the agreements, to be signed.
Thank you. Does council have any questions?
Just a comment, I actually watched the YouTube video of your Arts Historic Culture Preservation Commission meeting where you guys
That's
discussed
cool.
this, and it was like an hour-long discussion on the 6 different pieces that you had to choose from. So I really appreciated the time that the commission put into the consideration of this. And I think I know you were talking about choosing 3 pieces from one artist. I think you made a great choice to diversify the selection and bring us 3 different artists. So I really like the results. So thank you to the whole commission.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this matter?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution for the Silver Box Program Public Art Loan Agreements. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Grove,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor McAllister.
Yes.
And the resolution is approved. All right, congratulations. The next item under new business is council's consideration of a proposed deferred improvement agreement that would allow a short plat at 1300 Garden Street to proceed with conditions. I'll now yield the floor to City Planner Amy Tweet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Again, this is a follow-up to an appeal on a short plat at 13 Garden Street. So the agreement has incorporated the conditions of approval. And the first one, it's illustrated in the image, is the needed changes to the short plat that shows the additional 4 feet of right of way. So it's showing the 16-foot right of way currently, and then the additional 4 feet will become part of that right of way. So that was the first condition, that the short plat be amended with this. And then there were some just technical note changes that have to occur as well. And then the timing of the right-of-way improvements and the fire turnaround easement will correspond with the building permit. Again, the question was what will happen on lot 2 that determines how long that right of way needs to be and what that fire turnaround size are. So the paved 20 feet of pavement is a requirement at building permit time. Possibly curb and gutter, depending on what the stormwater management plan determines. Fee in lieu of sidewalk, just given the minimal right of way that we have. And then again, the fire turnaround size to be and location to be determined, knowing what actually gets constructed. And then private maintenance of the purely local drive. There is a bit of a challenge with this location being at the end of the dead end street. So we have put in there, the city will work with the applicant on snow removal and potentially we'll have a further agreement on that. Again, once we know what we're dealing with. So that's all I have. If council has any questions?
Council, any questions? Okay. Madam Clerk, is there anyone who would like to comment on this matter from the public?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Kyle Schreiber.
Kyle Schreiber, Sandpoint resident. I want to start by saying that I don't have any problem with what this applicant wants to do with his property. I think a couple single family homes on a 1/4 acre lots will fit right in with the neighborhood just fine. And frankly, infill like this is exactly the kind of development that Sandpoint needs. This is what the city should be incentivizing rather than concessions to big developers. My only concern about the proposal is that the idea that Garden Street will become a dead end. When Garden Street was originally constructed, it wasn't terminated in a cul-de-sac. And previous officials saw fit to acquire patches of right-of-way further to the west, presumably so that Garden Street might continue on. Clearly, someone saw the potential for this neighborhood when they chose to zone it multi-use residential, which I agree with. It's in a great location with both car and bike ped access nearby. Schools and emergency services are within a snowball's throw. The parcels to the south and southwest of this total nearly 3 acres of multi-use residential land. That's enough for roughly 125 residential units and thousands of square feet of commercial space. And the northern half of those parcels currently sit vacant and could easily be developed if there was access to it. But if Garden Street is dead-ended where it is now, then the northern half of those parcels will not have the required street frontage and we'll be in the same situation we're in right now. So let's think strategically on this and plan for Garden Street to continue on in the future. As long as the right-of-way is protected and not built upon, the street doesn't need to be built out to complete street standards right away, just so 2 more houses can go in. But if Garden Street needs to jog a lane's width to the south in order to continue on, let's create a plan for that rather than painting ourselves into a corner and making acres of prime multi-use residential land undevelopable because we didn't think ahead. You know, I understand why city staff recommended what they did. They have strict rules that they must follow in order to prevent lawsuits. But those rules were written to include opportunity for the council to use their discretion to do what's best for the city. And so that's what I'm asking the council to do today. Don't dead end Garden Street. Thank you.
Mr. Schreiber, Madam Clerk?
I don't believe there's anyone else who wished to speak on this matter, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Hearing that, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution for the deferred right-of-way improvement agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I wouldn't mind asking Amy a question of clarification. Is there city right of way to the west of the end of Garden Street?
Just hold this up. So it goes, if you see here, it is the 16 feet and then it widens back
Right.
to the south. Actually, what I'll do is pull up. the aerial photo. So the area we're dealing with is here where it's only 16 feet of right of way, then it widens back out to about half of a right of way. And then it ends. So there's not right of way all the way through to North Division, only partially to this point.
Are there other examples of streets in Sandpoint that for whatever reason, I mean, I don't expect you to know the history of the platting of this development of why the city did not acquire or require right of way all the way through.
I would say this is a very unique situation.
Yeah.
And I think the dedication of these two areas actually happened at two different times.
Mhm.
So I can't explain why they only required the 16 feet to the south of the subject property. And then widened it back out to 32, which is about half of, if you see Garden Street is about a 60-foot right of way. So no, I can't explain why.
So it seems to me that the current, approving the current agreement would not preclude, sometime in the future, a right-of-way acquisition that would allow for Garden Street to be connected all the way to Division.
No, I don't think it precludes it at all. Potentially, the property to the south that the church owns, if they wanted to dedicate further right of way. I think it would be challenging if we are only requiring the 4 feet to the north, on the Hollins property. Now, going back and asking for additional right of way might be, tough, but,
It also appears that once the 4 feet is dedicated to the city on the Hollins property, if you were to extend that directly to the west, it would go right through my dentist's office.
Correct.
right.
So that makes it tough to envision a future roadway because my teeth need to be cleaned.
Right. There has been some discussion of this would be a good pedestrian connection.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But a full road through there, yeah, I think a lot would have to change before that would happen.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for answering those questions.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, this will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Welker,
Yes.
Counselor McAllister,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
No.
Counselor Groot,
Mr. Holland, thank you for your patience. Yes.
Counselor Dick.
Yes.
And the resolution is approved. Next, council will consider a request for a 2-lot short plat at 615 North Lincoln, which would create a flagpole lot pursuant to City Code 10-1-7-S. The Sandpoint Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval on August 1st, 2023. I'll now yield the floor to City Planner Amy Tweeden once again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is for a flagpole lot short plat that would divide the current property into 2 lots. As proposed, it's called a flagpole lot because that second lot would not have full street frontage, but it is allowed by section 10-1-7-S. Again, this went to the Planning Commission and there's not a hearing required, but they did take action and recommend to City Council. This is just an illustration of the current lot, showing how that flagpole would look on the current property. And as a short plat, it is reviewed under section 10.2. and section 10.2.2. It does meet the criteria of being within the corporate limits. It is on a rural collector that is designated as future 60 feet of right of way. The current street only has 40 feet of right of way. So you'll see there's an additional recommendation for an additional 5 feet. Currently, the short plat is showing a 5-foot dedication. And the recommendation is for an additional 5 feet so that there's 10 feet of right of way on the west side of the property that would then be paralleled with an additional 10-foot dedication on the right. So ultimately the road could be built at a 60-foot right of way. And again, it meets the short plat requirement because it's only 2 lots being created. It's also reviewed under section 10.2.3. It is unplatted land currently, so they're not short platting a short plat. It does qualify under the short plat provisions. There's no adjoining land that should have been included by the property owner. And lot 1 does meet the minimum frontage in the zoning district. And again, lot 2, which is in back, has that flagpole, but it does meet the requirement for a flagpole lot. And then again, it's reviewed for potential right-of-way dedications, which is there's a recommendation for an adjustment of what was originally proposed. Again, this is the section of code regulating flagpole lots, and they are showing the required 26-foot flagpole frontage. The property is in the RM district. Lot division would, there's 2 different recommended conditions of approval under these findings. One is that the rear lot has 2 existing structures, and before the final plat is approved, those need to be removed so that we don't have a lot with accessory structures without a principal structure. But both lots will meet minimum lot size. And lot 1 that has the existing house will meet the maximum lot coverage and setbacks. Again, the additional 5-foot right of way, and then there's also just a recommended condition of noting the nonconformity of the existing house on the plat. And I'll just show you the illustration. These are the conditions, these are the comments we've received. So these have all been, or the first 2 have been incorporated into the conditions of approval. Neighbor concerns have been raised with traffic and parking with additional housing. Again, at this time, there's no construction proposed. This is just the division of the property. This is showing those conditions of approval. The circles are the structures that would need to be removed. That south property line setback, side yard setback should be 5 feet and it's 2.4. So that just needs to be noted as a non-conforming structure on the plat. And then this is just illustrating the additional 5 feet of right of way to show a 10-foot dedication on this lot. Again, with the 10-foot dedication, the existing house still meets the minimum or the maximum lot coverage and the front yard setback. Based on review, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval with 9 conditions. The first one, North Lincoln, is that unique situation where we have a paved multi-use path. So at this point, we wouldn't require that to be taken out for sidewalk, but at time of building permit, we would just inspect it to see if there's any improvements that need to be made. Again, those existing structures need to be removed before final plat. Conditions 3 through 8 are all technical changes to the notes on the plat. And then condition 9 is that additional 5 feet, which addresses both the IHD comment and the future designation of that as a rural collector at 60 feet of right of way. So that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I did have one question. I just want you to clarify, I know I read it, but because they have the 26 foot of right of way, what type of structure could be built on the new plat? I know there was a little grid that you had. I don't remember if it was for the last one or this one, but and this is in multifamily.
Right, so at 8,000, I don't know that they could do a 2-unit, but they could certainly do a house with an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, because of the total front, you need more total frontage to increase the number of units.
Just the lot size. is the-
And the square footage.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's both criteria for that.
right.
Correct. Okay. That's what I thought I remembered reading. So just wanted that clarified. Thank you.
I just have a question about flagpole lots. Maybe you can answer this. On that 26 minimum requirement for the flagpole portion, is it possible, could an easement be on that 26 feet such that both lots could use that 26 feet for access? Could that still qualify?
You couldn't just have the 26 feet shown as an easement. It has to be part of that rear lot. But the property owner could certainly grant lot one owner access across it. But it can't, you couldn't show, and originally when this came forward, it showed that whole 26 foot is just an easement across lot one. That does not qualify as a flagpole lot.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this matter?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, does council have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion. I move that the Sandpoint City Council, after consideration of the criteria and relevant standard of Idaho Code and Sandpoint City Code, approve with the staff report conditions 1 through 9, the request of John Fitzgerald for a flagpole lot, city application number PS 23-0002 at 615 North Lincoln Avenue, parcel RSP 056-200C-001TA. This motion is based on the analysis and facts contained within the staff report, comments received, and the finding that with the stated conditions, the application is in compliance with the requirements for a flagpole lot as outlined in Sandpoint City 10-1-7-S and short plats according to the City Code Title 10, Chapter 2, and that the staff has followed the notice procedures applicable to short plats contained in Sandpoint City Code 10-2-7.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? There'll be a roll call vote.
Counselor McAllister,
Yes.
Counselor Groot,
Yes.
Counselor Dick,
Yes.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. For the final item on the agenda this evening, council will consider proposed amendments to the city's school resource officer agreement with the Lake Pend School District. I'll now yield the floor to Police Chief Corey Kuhn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What we have before you is an amendment to our contract that we currently had with the school district. As you guys are all aware, they've requested to drop one of the school resource officers, which made us go back and redo our contract. So I know there's been a couple different edits. I'm not sure which edit you have, so I just want to go through kind of line by line to make sure that you have the correct information. So with that being said, in the contract, one of the things that we're going to remove is the 2 full-time employees down to just 1. The school district has agreed to increase their cost sharing from 60% to 70% for that employee. Under section B, we've added some language dealing with the who has authority and or control of the security guards. It's clearly outlined that we as the police department of the city has no authority over the security guards or the school district employees. We added today another section under that talks and referenced that there's no employee relationship that's transpiring or taking place between the city of Sandpoint or the Lake Pend Oreille School District. We want to be clear on roles and responsibilities when it comes to those things. If you kind of flip through it, we added an indemnification clause. One of the other things we've added, we changed some of the language. We had initially called them a security guard. I talked with the superintendent. She wanted it changed to security officer. So there's some of those changes that took place too. As you go down through it, one of the other things is the school district wanted them to participate in training and be certified. We're not going to certify them anything because of liability reasons, but we will invite them to training opportunities that we host for their benefit. At the end of those training, that's all it is for their benefit and their knowledge, without taking on any liability for them. One of the other big things to clarify is with the school districts is since they've added 2 security guards to their officers to their team, the difference in our responsibilities. So the police department is strictly going to be responsible for the schools for criminal activities and not non-criminal activities. Last couple of years, we've worked a lot with on criminal stuff. So like if there's a student acting out, we'd go sit with them, we'd help them out, we would work with them. Now with their additional staff and cutting back, some of those duties are going to fall strictly on the security team first. And then if they need additional help, they'll call. So some of those protocols are being developed and written as we speak. A good example would be someone that the school district may think is under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Their team is going to assess them first, make that determination, and then call us instead of us going there and making some of those determinations to start with. So which is kind of outlined in some of those sections. They've got to get some training and up to speed first. So we're going to do that until they are adequately trained. And then once they're trained, they'll take on that responsibility for them. I think that's the highlighted spots of it. We've had a great relationship with the school district. This is a major change in the aspect of how we're doing some of this stuff. We'll still have one of the other changes is, I guess, one of the big changes too, is as part of this agreement with the school district is we lost 2 of them, right? We had 2, we're down to 1. His primary responsibility is going to be the high school, the middle school campus, which he'll spend 90% of his time there, which means if the alternative school calls, Foreman calls, Stidwell and or Washington calls, they're going to get in line through our dispatch center for whoever is available to go. So that'll be a big change. When they cancel the program, one of the other big changes is we had that contract with the Kootenai School District or with the Kootenai City. We now don't have a SRO out there, so that'll fall back under the sheriff's department, and that contract in and of itself with the city of Kootenai fell away. So some of our response to some of the cool schools are going to change because of the agreement. But at that time, it's just kind of working through some of the kinks that we'll have. So that's the short version. Questions?
Chief, thank you. Is JD our guy?
So JD is assigned to the high school. They've actually assigned him to be in the high school. So the school resource officer and JD will be sharing an office space there at the high school. So JD did get the appointment for our area.
I'd like to say he's a really good fit. Like he did a great job as a crow for us. He's got great heart, and that group of kids and that staff are really lucky to have JD there.
If you ask him, he'll tell you that I'm mad at him because I didn't want to lose him. Right? There's some employees that you're okay with losing. There's some that you don't want to lose. JD is an outstanding employee, and they did well by picking him up to be in the school. So I echo what you're saying. He is phenomenal, and he did an outstanding job for the city while he was here.
So to clarify, JD is now the security officer for the school district.
They have 2 technically. I'd love to tell you the other one, but I can't remember his name. He'll be assigned to the Clark work area.
Yeah.
And JD will be assigned to the city area for this time.
So we previously had 2 SROs. I always appreciated seeing them when dropping my daughter off at the elementary school, but under the new arrangement, the SRO will be strictly limited to the high school, middle school complex.
Correct.
Will the security officers employed by the district therefore float around to the elementary schools in the area?
That's a great question. You don't have a great answer.
That's not your responsibility.
I don't. Yeah, it's really going to fall under her. And I don't think those protocols have been drafted yet. So
Mr. Mayor, I guess in terms of Counselor Walker's same kind of line of questioning, we've had two resource officers there for what, the last 3 years? I think. am I
Yeah,
reading?
2019.
Yeah, right around there. You know, you've come up here and talked to us before about letting parents know that you feel very safe with their kids and we should feel safe as parents with our kids going to that school. Does this open the schools up to any more liability in your estimation without having this officer on? And might you be able to speak as why the school district is getting rid of them?
You know, in talking with our superintendent, I think one of her biggest concerns was just trying to get some funding and some movement into the county schools. Initially, that conversation when we had getting coverage like at the Clarkbrook School, for example, the Hope Elementary Schools, eliminating our position to use some of that funding to hire one and put them out in that area. After that was the initial concept that we had. After they did the interviews, she really couldn't let JD go. She created funding for a second one to be here within the city to help manage some of the other stuff. I don't necessarily, what direction she's going, I don't know in the long run. You can look at Lakeland School District as a kind of an example of, I think, the direction that she's going. Her goal is probably to hire, her goal, I believe, is to hire more security officers, put them throughout the school district to help keep the schools safer, I think is a long-term goal. We've implemented, I say she's implemented a lot of policies in the last year since she's been here to help keep our school safer with our like a lot of our campuses are locked down. You can't just walk in the facility. That helps with some of that security, helps with some of that safety, helps with keeping people out that shouldn't be in the schools. When it comes to being safe, I still think our schools are safe. It hurts a little bit losing a school resource officer. I thought we did an outstanding job. That connection that we had, we're going to lose. Some of our responses may change a little bit, but at the end of the day, we'll still be involved with all the schools. We'll still have our officers spend time. This week, for example, they're out at every school in the morning for the first couple hours, just because we know the importance of being in the schools when we come back from breaks. So we're going to dedicate that anyways, no matter whether they have whether we're getting paid through the school district or not. So some of that stuff will still be there. The hope is that when the public looks at it, they don't see a major change. Just it will be for us. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll echo the same sentiment as well. I think JD's fantastic.
He is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone from the public that'd like to comment on this matter?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution for First Amendment to the agreement with the Lake Pend Oreille School District. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Rule,
Yes.
Counselor Groot,
Yes.
Counselor McAllister,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Dick.
Yes.
Motion passes, and that concludes our agenda this evening. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.